Hi everyone, Stepan here. I'm going to show you my last game on Lichessladders, game 12. I just don't do well against the Jobava system, and I don't mean my results and my play. I mean, I don't understand what to do in many positions in that opening. So I often struggle, and that was the case in this game as well. I was challenged by GabrielKeno, who is, I think, a Brazilian national master, very strong player. The game was very, very precise, and yeah, I enjoyed it. It was instructive. Also, on Lichessladders now, you can join the Hanging Pawns team. It has just been formed, so there aren't too many players who joined thus far. I think there might be 10 or 15 players at this point, and we are last in the leaderboard, so please join and help us go up the rankings. Every game you play on Lichessladders is also going to count towards team points. Now, let's begin covering the game in the Jobava London. So, my opponent, whom I didn't have time to prepare against, plays the move d4. Okay, I played d5. Again, I had no idea what he was going to do. I just didn't have any time to prepare. So, d4, d5, knight c3, knight f6, bishop f4, we have the Jobava. And I play many things here. Many things. Normally, I'm going to play a6 at some point, whether it's now or after c5 or after e6 and c5. That depends, but I played a6 immediately in this game. And this is fine. This is all just sort of mainline stuff. e3, e6. And now if white wishes to complicate matters, they need to do so now. Any normal looking sort of move like bishop d3 or knight f3, black plays c5, then plays knight c6, then plays bishop d6, and equalizes very easily. My game against Tihana Ivekovic from the Rabat's Open, I think 2019, was in this exact position. And as white, I think I started with knight f3 here. She played c5 and equalized easily. So the way to complicate this Jobava is g4. And it's no longer that simple. I know what to do here, and it's not scary, but it's not easy to navigate this position, I think, with either side. Okay, so c5. This is one of the main moves. It's what I do. g5, okay, knight fd7 forced, queen g4. Now the idea is you want to put pressure on the king side and set up sacrifices on d5, e6, advances of your h-pawn. Maybe the bishop comes to h3. It's just, simply put, you don't really want to castle king side as black anymore. Now here, you could go knight c6. I think that's the main move, but I actually have a move prepared which has never been played, and I played it here for the first time, cd4. I mean, it has never been played in master games. So I accidentally entered my prep quite deeply. I had never had this position on the board before. It's just my prep and I remembered. So ed4, and now not knight c6, but bishop b4. So that's the idea. You want to prevent this knight from moving. You want to delay queenside castling from white. And the engine says here that white should go queen g3, and that's a very understandable move because it does two things. Firstly, it prevents the b-pawns from being doubled, but more importantly, there is a very common tactical thing in this position. If this knight moves away, then e5 wins a piece. It's not clean, but you know, the bishop is attacked and the queen is attacked by the bishop. So not only does white defend the knight, white also moves the queen away in anticipation of this idea of e5. So that was the best move. My opponent played knight e2. As I said, the game was really accurate, and I think this may have been my opponent's only inaccuracy. I have knight c6 now, makes sense, castles, and here I made a mistake. This is no longer my prep, and I wanted to get a knight to f5 as quickly as possible. Although, so I played knight e7. Although knight b6 was significantly better, and after knight b6, white simply must react now. Queen g3 is almost forced because e5 is coming. But instead I played knight e7, which is imprecise, and now white is significantly better. h4, b5, okay, queen g3, still same pattern, and also now threatening to trap my queen. But that's no big deal. I can go knight f5, which is with tempo. And surprisingly enough, this is a mistake. Knight f5 is a mistake. I mean, it's the second best move, but it's significantly worse than rook a7, which is the best move, because rook a7 doesn't allow bishop c7. However, after knight f5, queen h2, I played bishop b7, and my opponent did continue with bishop c7, which is... No, this is his only inaccuracy, bishop c7, and it loses a point of white's advantage. It goes from almost winning for white to equal, almost equal. So why is knight f5 a mistake? If bishop c7 is a mistake, I still cannot understand that. Instead, my opponent should have gone bishop h3 with a winning position, according to the engine, because there isn't much I can do. If I take on h4, then bishop e6, of course, is crushing, winning for white. So probably I go rook c8 and they just take my knight, because I cannot really move my knight anywhere. I mean, I could move it to e7, but I don't really want to. So as I said, instead he played bishop c7, and okay, I was debating between queen c8 and queen e7, but queen e7 is better because it defends the d6 square, bishop h3, and now very quickly, as you can see, I had 50 minutes on the clock here, and on my next move I had 48, so I'd only spent 2 minutes. And if you turn on the engine now, it's minus 0.1. Black is actually slightly better. After my next move, it's game over. And this, I have to say, is the biggest shift in engine evaluation after a move I thought was completely fine and I hadn't even considered risky. And what happened next? Just my position was gone. So you have two options here. You cannot allow bishop takes knight, first of all. So you either move the knight or you gain tempo on the queen. So it's either bishop d6 followed by knight takes once the bishop takes, or it's knight d6. It's clear that bishop d6 is a more forcing option because the bishop on c7 is hanging. So it basically forces this knight back to d6. And in my opinion, that seemed perfectly fine. However, bishop d6 is losing. Knight d6 is a great move. And knight d6 is still equal or slight advantage to black because this knight is now coming to c4. And after something like knight f4, knight c4, there's a ton of pressure on the king side and everything is defended. Now we're going to see what happens next after my move bishop d6, and things are going to become very clear. I'm going to try to explain why bishop d6 is bad as far as I can grasp it. So my king is still stuck in the center. I'm hanging the d-pawn and the knight is loose and my queen is pinned to my king. And this other knight can very easily come to f4. In fact, it's coming to f4 on the next turn. So white's threatening to exchange stuff on d5 or on e6, giving up a piece, and then win my queen. And there's nothing I can do about it. So bishop takes bishop forced, knight takes bishop forced, because otherwise bishop takes and then knight f4 followed by rook e1. And now knight f4. And I realized that I'm busted. That's it. I mean, what do I do here? The engine says knight e4 best move. And that's just awful. And d5. That's it. The engine says +2. This was the best option. The second best is to castle, which is also awful. And just g6. There's nothing I can do here. If I take on g6, then h5, and my opponent is breaking through. I didn't even consider g6. It's okay. So I played knight b6, which seemed like a fine move. It's slightly worse than castles, but everything is losing. And here's why it's losing. Rook e1, any rook to e1. I have to castle because my opponent's going to take on e6. What do I do? Just knight e6. So I castled, and still knight e6, but this way I lose a pawn and not a piece, or my queen. So of course this is winning. Knight takes e6, f takes e6, rook e6, a double attack on my d6 knight, and the game is over. It happened so quickly that, you know, I hardly understood what had led to such a quick downfall. And the main thing is that I played bishop d6. So if I had gone knight d6, knight f4, knight c4, if my opponent tries the same thing, rook e1, then I just take on c3. And, you know, the point is, there's no pressure on d5. If my opponent now tries a sacrifice on e6, for example, then b2 is hanging. So first of all, I can throw that in. But I can also simply play bishop e1. So this bishop must be recaptured. And now I have queen a3. Look at this knight on c4. Now this is winning for black. So this bishop on b4 cannot be exchanged, which is why bishop d6 is such a huge blunder. In any case, after having traded off the bishop, I'm just busted. And after rook takes e6, my opponent wins the piece back, and the rest is sort of trivial. My queen is hanging, my knight is hanging, I have to trade queens, my knight is still hanging, my d-pawn is still hanging, knight c4. I tried to give it my best to sort of complicate things, but I knew it was pointless. I still thought it wasn't rude to keep playing on. So my opponent played really precisely, forcing me to trade, threatens mate, have to go back, takes the d-pawn, and it's just 2 pawns up. Okay. What I can do is I can try to trade off all the pawns somehow, and then maybe I can survive, even though the position is losing. Maybe my opponent blunders into rook and knight versus rook. But that's not going to happen. I couldn't have taken the pawn on h4 because my rook on f8 is hanging with mate. Threatens knight e6. Takes the b-pawn. Okay, and now it's just 2 pawns up and definitely no hope anymore. And I'm also walking into mate, so here I resigned. I can take the pawn, but I lose everything. After that, once I play king takes g5, my opponent plays knight f7 check and wins my knight on b6. So a very clean conversion in a simple position. I think the one mistake, as you can see here, the one mistake my opponent had made was that idea with bishop c7, which he had been preparing for a while, and I was sure it was the best move. So he got a good position in which I ended up making a couple of mistakes. According to the engine, not many, but he just squeezed me and converted very, very nicely. Congratulations to my opponent. I didn't deserve any better. Yeah, I hope to meet him again and get my revenge. If you want to join the Hanging Pawns team, go to Lichessladders. The link is below. It's completely free. It's very fun. And it's a great way to schedule serious games online. See you in the next one. Stay tuned for more chess. Bye-bye.